it's about getting into schools and talking to young people, because, you know, I know that people can change. And it's about talking to people and getting them to understand and perhaps step back from violence and prejudice and whatever. And we just need to work together and keep on the good fight there.
Absolutely. Hey there guys, we are ecstatically happy to announce that we're associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
The times are changing, and with the unfortunate death of Sophie, those changes have made a massive impact for the future. If Sophie was with us still today, I can guarantee what you are doing will still be reaching so many lives of young teenagers, young adults, and those who wish to be as different as possible. So thank you very much.
To find out more about this incredible foundation and all the work they do, and more importantly, how you can help, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hey honey bunny, it's Rivka Reyes.
This is Ron Wasserman, the nut that wrote Go-Go Power Rangers.
I'm Noel McNeil, and once upon a time I was a bear in a big blue house.
It's Ram himself, Paul Rugg, the voice of Freakazoid, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.
What's going on, guys? It's the 66th edition of the Chronicles of Podcast, and you might have been like, why did he clap? Why is it not the double wave? Game show wave, ladies and gentlemen, game show wave. Game show smiles and game show waves. Welcome to the Chronicles of, Jamie. Was it Graham Humphreys?
It was indeed.
Lovely, excellent. Do you know what I'll do then? Is I'll get this car back on the road and we'll get started, shall we?
I think we definitely should. Hit it!
This is Graham Humphreys, freelance illustrator, purveyor of horror to the home entertainment industry, and I am on the Chronicles of Podcast.
But Jamie, let's get to the crux of the interview part, shall we? Bring that pace.
Oh, get that pace going.
Get that pace. Shall I get that pace?
Yeah, you grab that pace.
The piece is going to get gut. Welcome to the Chronicles of Graham Humphreys. This is going to be sick, Jamie. This is a very in-detail interview. So if you like to know the ins and outs of painting and how he makes posters, etc., this is the interview for you.
This is. I love those questions, these interviews rather, where we say, so, blah, 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 and then we just sit back and listen. I love those interviews because the amount of detail and passion that are in these guys' voices is just phenomenal to hear, and today's no exception. Graham is a stunning artist. You see the work this man has created over the years. They are iconic. The detail is incredible. He created posters for The Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, From Dusk Till Dawn, Party Monster, album artwork for bands like the Cramps. He's done so many amazing things during his career, and he's done it all. Well, I say all. 90% of it literally using paper and paint. None of that extra stuff. Good old-fashioned, old-school style. Superb.
And there's also a bit of Rob Zombie talking here. So if you're a fan of Rob Zombie, this is definitely the interview for you.
Yeah, this is so good.
Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Any words at all that you'd like to share with the audience that could possibly be final?
Not to the audience, but to Graham, I will say. A massive thank you for coming on the show, sir. We absolutely loved hearing your stories. That passion comes through when you talk. And like everyone needs to go check out Graham's work because you would have seen it before. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Graham, thank you so much for taking the time out to sit and chat with my friend. We absolutely loved it. It was great to hear all your stories. And what I love is the fact that you sat there at the very beginning and said, I want to pass this knowledge on to people that are coming up after me. So we love it when people do that. Absolutely incredible. And I guess we should let everybody hear what's going on. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, it's Graham Humphreys.
Good, thank you. I thought I should get here a couple of minutes early. People tend to like that.
We do like punctuality on the show, yes.
Good. How are you both doing anyway?
Yeah, well, good. Thank you. Sorry, Jamie was staring at me to say, are you going to answer the question? Or no one just, yeah, well, thank you, Graham. You're in for a ride, I'll put it that way. Are you ready? Is your seatbelt in?
It's for me, I've clicked it on already. And my sick bag on the side as well, just in case.
I was about to say, Captain, this is you. Passengers, the Captain speaking. Breaker, one, and all that sort of stuff. Essentially, all that happens really here is, Graham, is you're more than welcome to say anything you pretty much like. You can swear as much as you like. Just don't obviously hail Hitler. Don't talk about Cat 1D. Like, that sort of shit. The usual crap that nobody really wants. You know what I mean? Just common sense, should I put it that way?
Yeah, there's not much here, I'm afraid.
Oh, shut up.
I'm just admiring your horror posters, sorry.
Yes, please do. So, Leader Up AD 72 and
oh shit!
Some lovely old Belgian hammer posters as well. A whole bunch of them.
Can see where you get your inspiration from, sir.
Well, they're good to have there because it's the benchmark, for me. And if I can create a good hammer poster, then I'm doing the job right.
I like it. That's amazing. But thank you so much for doing this, by the way. It means the absolute world.
Well, no, I'm always happy to talk about stuff, and because I think it's important to pass on the knowledge, if you like, and help inspire other people. Should they require inspiring? Some people do.
I like that very much. But basically what we do is I do a little introduction, and then as my co-host likes to say, we just bombard the living hell out of you with questions. How does that sound, sir?
That sounds perfect.
Wonderful. Let's do this little intro. Just double checking I did press record.
Is the sound's okay for you?
Sounds
perfect. Yeah. Absolutely perfect.
Good.
And very clear, which is what we like.
Good. Well, I should try to articulate, correctly, enunciate my words. There's been no theatrical training, I'm afraid, but I've done quite a few interviews now, so I can pronounce my words correctly. I'm from the West Country of England, and when I first moved to London, nobody could understand a word I said because regional accent is so strong, so I've learned to temper it over the years.
Well, we both used to live in Cheltenham, which is around the West Country area, so we're used to it.
Oh, well, the accent, well, then, yeah, of course.
Right, introduction time. Oh, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we bring you another wonderful and talented guest. Today's guest has helped draw you, the moviegoer, into watching movies such as The Evil Dead, From Dusk Till Dawn, Party Monster, Nightmare on Elm Street, and many, many more, with his incredible artwork for posters, DVD covers, and much more. He's an author, a lover of horror, and most importantly, an artiste. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the Chronicles of Graham Humphreys. I love it when they get to applaud themselves.
I'm applauding you.
Oh,
yes.
Nail every time, Jamie. Beautiful. But Graham, I think the biggest hard-hitting question that everybody loves to talk about at this point in time is, how was your pandemic season? How have your last... I know it's kind of... Is it over? Is it not over now? I know nobody talks about it anymore, but how have the last 2 years been for you?
Well, I'd say it's over now, pretty much, certainly as far as I'm concerned, and probably, people I know, friends, clients, etc. And I've been able to see bands and, exhibitions and things, and doing all the stuff that I would have done before. I mean, the main difference for me has been that I was working from a desk space within another company in the West End of London, and as soon as the pandemic hit, we were all asked to start working from home, which was, I think we all just naively thought might be a week, 2 weeks, a month at the maximum, and then the years passed, it seemed. But anyway, in that period of time, I mean, obviously, the whole sort of business of entertainment and how it's serviced kind of changed quite a lot. And so the company itself that I was working with had to downsize, as a lot of companies did. And I think that I realised at that point that actually working from home actually was not a problem at all, and I've been considering doing it for quite some time. In fact, I'm in the very same corner that I first started working in when I moved into this flat, which was in 1985. So it's it's I haven't progressed at all. But yeah, no, it's working from home is fine now, because it would have been more difficult back then, because obviously I didn't have access to desktop computing, and there was no internet, and so everything was done by phone, and silly little things, faxes, and of course mostly I'd have to meet people face to face, which is fine anyway though, but hand deliver artwork quite often, because everything now is delivered over the internet, and everything gets scanned here, and well, that's all. It's all still paint on paper, but it all gets delivered digitally. So so for that reason, actually working from home is actually much easier than it would have been then. The one thing I had to do was get a sort of much faster broadband, because I realised that delivering large files is not really good from a sort of poxy little system I had already. So I kind of got that one in order, and really, I'm quite disciplined anyway. Though everything's deadline driven anyway, so you know how to get stuff done, and I can get up early when I need to and work late if I need to. And actually, there's a bit more freedom to actually work harder. Anyway. Actually, I wouldn't call that freedom at all. Really, it means that there's no escape, because the work is right here in front of me. I've got sleep just over there, and the work's just here. So as soon as I get up in the morning, it's just there waving at me. But the main thing was that because the pandemic really made home entertainment far more important than it had been before, especially for people on furlough. I mean, there's so much exercise you can do before you just want to sit down and watch a film. So as somebody just works on their own anyway, though, it didn't, I wasn't affected by not having people around. But it just meant that suddenly I got a lot busier, and I took the time also to catalogue a lot of the artwork I keep at the flat, probably about 400 or 500 pieces of artwork here. And I thought, I should just have a look at them and see what's here. And so I started posting 3 or 4 images every morning. I get really early, just make a point of doing just part of the whole discipline process. And as a result of that, I sold a number of pieces of artwork, which just helped move things along a bit, I guess, and also broaden the sort of possible client base, I suppose, because a lot of people were obviously looking at the internet a lot more than they were doing before. And so that kind of brought me some new clients, particularly from the US side, and pretty much all the artwork sales were in America as well. So from that point of view, the pandemic helped me focus a lot more on my work, and become a lot busier, to be quite honest. And that hasn't really let up since, which is puts me in a very good, very lucky, fortunate situation. Although I have seen very little time to do much else at the moment. I mean, I think it's quite important to take breaks. It really is, and if I'm going out to see friends, that's really important time away from the work, because if you're just working constantly all the time, you lose focus on what you're doing, and you lose the extra stimulus that you need in order to keep the work fresh. And communicating with other people is essential in that respect. And of course, I missed doing some of the conventions as well for that 2-year period, because for somebody like myself, it's very important to get feedback from people to know if what you're doing is something they want to see anymore, and also find out what people react to, and how they respond to the different things you do, and you get a good sense of in what direction to take the work in, and also kind of build confidence, I suppose, in what you do, because when you work alone, it's very difficult to kind of just really see from the outside how your work's going. You do need that feedback, and fortunately, most of us seem to be pretty good, so that's okay. But also, you have to kind of operate some sort of self judgment, if you like. Just always constantly, trying to do something a bit better than you did last time. And when you look back through older work, in particular, you kind of you identify the things which you consider to be your weaknesses, if you like, and try to just build on those and strengthen things in that way. But the subject matter itself usually is what provides inspiration and helps shape what I do. So to an extent, you are kind of, there are parameters with everything you do which you have to work within. But the challenge is to try to make it a bit more exciting than perhaps some of the products often is.
Amazing. Yeah, you're absolutely right about feedback, though. As you say, you don't know where you're going right or wrong, because sometimes we're our own worst critic. So, it's great to get that feedback. So, I imagine conventions are so important for that sort of thing.
Well, it is, but it's also just seeing what's out there, meeting other artists as well and seeing what they do, and find out where your place is within the sort of the wider picture, I guess. Though, but it's important to pick up on other little cultural nuances which are out there, because people view things through as a sort of a cultural lens, if you like. You kind of work within a time which at any given moment, which is influenced by other things that perhaps you're not quite so aware of. I mean, I know there are a lot of shows on streaming shows like Netflix and Prime, and lots of series that people get really into, and that really kind of helps shape their tastes in a way. And I'm just not. I just don't have the time, inclination to sit there and just watch, some sort of 16-part thing. Just doesn't seem to go anywhere. But, I'm sure I'm talking about. I started watching The Heist a while back, and I just assumed it'd be an 8-part thing. I thought, well, it's getting interesting. Obviously, it's polishing itself up to a big finale, and then saw actually 16 episodes, and I thought, oh god, with 2 more seasons as well. I thought, I just don't think I'll bother with this anymore. But so I find myself watching some things because I think it's important just to see where the sort of current pulse, I suppose, is in the industry. I mean, I watch a lot of films anyway, though, so obviously I go to, for instance, things like the Fright Fest every year in London, which is a good introduction to the sort of the shape of horror, I guess. So it's clearly every year something has affected filmmakers to lead them in particular directions. So you had years where there was just seemed to be wall-to-wall zombies, and the home invasion films. I remember one year seemed to be quite popular, and filmmakers obviously pick up on the politics at the time, and state of the world, and there might be sort of a year of eco horror, but all these things are quite important just to take note of, and just you subtly bring them into the work you do without trying to make it too overt, but just being aware of what's out there is important, I think.
Absolutely. So, take us back, sir, to the days of young Master Humphreys, you could say. growing up in the West Country.
Cleaning chimneys, yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Was it always art for you, or was this something that came a little bit later on?
I think, probably. I knew it was going to be something to do with drawing and painting, but I didn't know what. I mean, when you're young, you have no idea. Well, certainly then, you have no idea what options were open to you. And I think probably not until my early teens, I think it was discussed at the breakfast table. son, what are you going to do with your life? And you think, no idea really. But I think my dad had sort of suggested that graphic design was the sort of commercial option, the sort of area where I'm most likely to make a living. Anybody wants to be an artist, but you're not going to make a living unless you're very lucky or well connected. So I think I knew that probably by the time I was 15, I'd be looking to go to art college and with views to doing graphic design, and lo and behold, it's what I did. But it was good grounding because it was commercially kind of situed, if you like, and it gave me good grounding in all the basics of design, typography, and some knowledge of printing as well, which I think a lot of people don't seem to know much about. I've discovered, when you know your printing processes and what's required of you for print, it helps a lot. Understanding, the basics of screen colours versus print colours, and I do speak to fellow illustrators sometimes who kind of struggle with this idea that they work digitally, but actually, translating the work for print, it's not what you see on the screen isn't what you're going to get on a piece of paper, for instance. So the way colours are delivered is a completely different process, and trying to make people understand that when you convert screen colours into print colours, the way it has to separate out the inks for the whole litho process or whatever it is, maybe digitally, even though it's just going to be a very different thing. So from that perspective, it was really, really useful for me. Of course, when you leave college, everything changes, and what you thought you knew everything about, suddenly you know nothing at all. And going into the industry blind, really, you have to learn things very, very quickly. And luckily, I was working alongside some of the fellow students who moved up to London as well, so we all kind of moved up together pretty much. And so I learned a lot from my contemporaries and about printing processes and delivering artwork ready for print. Things like typesetting, and it was a horribly complex, irritating thing you had to know about, which thankfully nobody has to bother with nowadays, because it's just all, you just type it in and assign font sizes and stuff, and it just does it for you. I mean, you don't even have to worry about getting a ruler out anymore, because you just have to draw lines and actually stick bits of text on the lines and try to make everything parallel, perfectly parallel. Nobody has to worry about that at all anymore. But I remember the studios always smelt of spray mount, and try to explain to students nowadays what cow gum is. I have no idea what you're talking about, but rooms always smell of cow gum and spray and all the stuff you used to stick bits of paper onto other bits of paper with, ready to mark up and send off to printers. All extraordinary stuff, really. And if you made mistakes in your markups, it quite often be too late to change things. And I remember doing a couple of video covers for Palace Pictures, for instance, and just making very simple, stupid little mistakes in, for instance, instructing to the printer, when you have usually a little photocopy of the illustration in place, just so they can see where things sit. And but you'd also have to give them the percentage of whatever they're working from, like whether it's the actual piece of artwork they're going to scan or a transparency, just telling them what percentage that has to reduce to fit. And if you get your percentage wrong, they'll just go with that anyway, even though visually it probably looked wrong, but they're just following your instructions. And it's just you can see stuff coming back from the printer and think, oh my god, that's not meant to be there. And but it'd be too late. I can look back at some stuff and I can see all the errors, and nobody else seems to at all.
You think it was that glaringly obvious? They go, that can't be right. Let me just give him a ring. Let's just not just go, sorry.
Well, then because everything was litho printed, and making the plates was quite expensive, and the films and the plates, all this stuff, all the mechanical processes should go into a final print. And with VHS especially, they'd be churning out a lot of them, and quite, they'd usually gang them up on large sheets of paper, so you'd have several releases all on one sheet, just then cut up. So there was little room for error, really. I mean, you were lucky if you got a proof to look at, first of all, where you could actually look at it and then say, well, that's incorrect. And sometimes you'd have the chance to make changes. Quite often you wouldn't, though. So, that's how things moved along. And I mean, even now, it's possible to make errors on with the software in terms of elements within the artwork, can go bits of array sometimes. So I'm talking about layout software in particular. I mean, largely when you're scanning a painting, that it is what it is. There's little that can go wrong there. I mean, to be honest, nowadays, color reproduction is really, really good. I mean, the screen I use, I'd say is pretty 100% accurate to what ultimately gets printed at the other end. And printing presses now as well are just really sophisticated that the quality of print is so good. Unlike in the 80s, for instance, when I was doing a lot of the early work, it was all hit and miss. The color balances would be off quite often, and you have to. If there were proofs, you would say, if you just tone down the red, or maybe make it less green, all this kind of stuff. Nowadays, you don't really have to worry about that because it just pretty much delivers what you see on screen.
It's mental to hear how much technology has changed the way you do things.
Well, it is, and I mean, the horror stories of providing I could just talk for hours and hours about how ridiculous some of this stuff was. I mean, you used to have because mostly your artwork, for layouts for posters and things would be delivered as black and white pieces of art with then tracing paper at the top, and instructions, print this white out of the background, or add a drop shadow here, a percentage of blue, yellow, or whatever. All these other instructions, but mostly you're just dealing with black and white, hard black and white stuff. And we used to have these machines which would produce, very hard black and white prints, which you then paste down. And you had little machines producing these little prints, and they'd be delivered wet, so you had to either have a little hairdryer to dry them off, or just stick them down, wait for them to dry, or have a little washing line and peg them up. It's pathetic, really. Just how ridiculous all this stuff was. And then you sometimes you have if you use spray mount or carry gun stick stuff down, you'd have a waxing machine. You just run this stuff through a little waxer, put a coat of hot wax on it, and then you just rub that down onto the surface. And if it's in the middle of the summer, sometimes the wax would be melting on the way to the printer, so the printer would get this piece of artwork delivered with a whole load of stuff, which is obviously just melted off the sheet, and you have to send it back and have to repaste it up again. I mean, it's just really stupid stuff, which you don't have to worry about that now. Thank goodness. So.
I bet you say thank goodness. I bet every now and again you're like, kind of miss the good old days.
No.
No, I don't, Jamie. Quite frankly.
So, Graham, where did your love of horror movies come from then? Why horror?
I don't know, really. Probably just born wrong. I think that it probably started off with things like stuff you watch as a kid on TV, and books, stuff you saw in books, and I just probably the first images I really remember that I actually had some engagement with were any image of a skeleton or a skull, funny enough. And that hasn't really changed at all. But that's probably where it really began. Just science books, I think, probably, and also books borrowed from the library. Because back then, going to the library was a much bigger thing than it would be now. I mean, everybody has a device, with a computer, and people just go on the internet. Without any of that kind of stuff, the library was such an important place if you wanted to look for inspiration, or just as a kid, anything to entertain yourself with, in book form. Pictorial stuff, obviously, when you're a kid, nobody wants to read, really. You just look at the pictures. So you react to the books which have great pictures in, and quite often I found myself attracted to a lot of artists from the past centuries, really, who are doing a lot of religious paintings, which because that's where the real horror used to be, sort of very gory biblical scenes and demons and such like, and that was my probably the real introduction to horror, I guess, in a way. And it was only later, kind of watching TV and then ultimately then watching films as well. The way films were at the time, you couldn't get into a cinema to see an 18 certificate film unless you had mates or you knew somebody who worked in the cinema. And being a sort of a smaller stature anyway, I was younger than I was, so there was no chance. But so I had to wait for stuff to come out on TV. And that's before, obviously, the home entertainment era, because VHS obviously changed everything drastically. Then all this stuff became accessible suddenly. But, when I was a kid, it just wasn't accessible. So, books were the main source of inspiration and imagery. And, you'd occasionally see, everybody of my generation had one particular book which sent us all to the dark side straight away, which was the first pictorial history of the horror movies. And you speak to anybody who's probably between the age of 50 and 70, and they'll immediately identify that book as being crucial to their horror development, if you like. And I'm no exception there at all. But a lot of magazines aimed at kind of like I suppose boys really and young teenagers in the 70s were kind of presenting a lot of horror stuff. There was like Famous Monsters, the American magazine, of course, which is legendary, really. But there are a fair number of things here, and you get a world of horror. There was a dedicated Hammer magazine, and so really that was the other introduction to horror as well. Other parts of horror. I learned all about Universal horror films from those magazines in the 1970s, and then a bit later, they turned their attention to all the Hammer stuff as well. So really, that's where all my kind of sources begin.
Amazing.
You would guess from anything behind me, would you at all?
No, not really.
It's very when Tom asked that question, I was thinking it's always going to be this film and everything. I wasn't expecting it to be magazines and books. That blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that. I love that.
Yeah, it as a sort of 12-year-old now, that would be completely different. That wouldn't be the case at all. Well, I don't think so anyway, though. But that was the only option you had. There wasn't, it's. I don't know how people get their heads around how we survived without a computer or a mobile phone, but people did, and you just find a way, ultimately. And also, if you have a group of friends who like the same things as well, then you swap magazines and books, and of course we're all none of us were gaming then. We were all building airfix models, and so because the other thing was all those fantastically disappointing Aurora monster kits, which the boxes look fantastic, but the actual kits were just terrible. But that's what we all had, and again, anybody of my generation will tell you they all have those same monster kits as well. And everybody was always disappointed as well. So
these are terrible. I need to go buy another one.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Terrible monsters. Yeah. But it also it made you want to know more about why those monsters were those monsters, and where those images came from, and it made me read more books, if you like, though, because I wanted to read Frankenstein, I wanted to read Dracula, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I wanted to read all those books. Hunchback of Notre Dame. And of course, I had no idea that these were like big, verbose tomes written a century ago, which as a kid, are quite tough going, to be quite honest. But I've reread them since, and it's less daunting now, of course. But also, you have Now I have a better idea of the time they're written in and the cultural sort of issues that surrounded those books, and it's actually far more interesting now, delving into that than it was then, because suddenly you realise that the images you saw on film or in stills and magazines and books bear little relation to the real content and source material. But then, it's interesting trying to see how the two tally up in many ways. And of course, having seen every possible permutation of Dracula, for instance, and the sort of Frankenstein story, it's interesting to see how people reinterpret those things. And I think it's only in the last probably 20, 30 years that people really delve back into the original material and actually try to get into the sort of the politics and the sort of sexual politics of the era in which they were written as well. I mean, obviously Mary Shelley was writing in a very sort of misogynist era, and so the way she approached her novel was something that probably it's very hard to imagine now, really. And even sort of the whole Dracula thing was quite an interesting book in itself, because it wasn't written as a novel; it was written as a collection of journals and letters and recordings. It is very much a book about technology and how we communicate with each other, and so all those little nuances are quite interesting to see now, and you kind of just miles away from your average Hammer film, which really just played with the sensational aspects of those books. But I also around that time I probably discovered Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, and it really started twisting my mind.
So I know your first big job, correct me if I'm wrong, was creating the poster for the theatrical re-release of The Evil Dead. That phenomenal piece that you created. That's one hell of a foot in the door, sir. How did that come about?
Well, as I always have to tell people, just being in the right place at the right time, or perhaps the wrong place at the wrong time, who knows. But that was just, I was probably my second year out of college and just looking for work, and as far as I remember, it was literally somebody who was the secretary at a small company where one of my friends was working. He'd gone straight from college into this quite amazing design job at a really fantastic little design company. And it just happened this secretary knew somebody who worked at Palace Pictures, and they literally just set up shop, I believe, within those last few months. As a distributor of film, and in fact they'd only distributed one film at that point, which was the film Diva, and sort of French thriller, and so The Evil Dead was their second acquisition, and it was just luckily for me that I on the suggestion of this particular person, that I went along to their office and showed them my work, and it just as I say, you couldn't make it up. It's just literally, they said, we've just got this film, and looked at the word and said, I think it would be perfect for it. And they really took a risk, because I had very little commercial printed work in the folio. It was mostly all college stuff, and also when you don't have much work, what you have to do is really just build up a body of samples, if you like. So I was always working. If I wasn't getting a paid job, I'd be creating new pieces of artwork to hopefully try and win me some commissions. So it was on the basis of a couple of pieces in a folio that I had, and they just said, "Oh, this is perfect style." And so literally within a matter of weeks, I painted that poster, and suddenly had a career in horror films.
It's a phenomenal piece. It is absolutely stunning. But I'm guessing the success from that poster, that iconicness of that poster, that's what got people knocking on your door to go, we'd like to design a poster for our movie, please.
Well, not enough, really. I don't think they knocked on the door at all, really. I think probably because, it's such an odd thing. When I designed that poster, I was in my head designing a sort of 1950s style B-movie poster, and nowadays I get told that it was very quintessentially 1980s. Well, it wasn't in my head; it was quintessentially 1950s at the time. But it's a very simple, crude piece of work, and I've still got the artwork here, so at the other side of the room, in fact, so I've never let that go. But it's quite small at all. But it nevertheless was so on its own and out of this time in a way, because I don't know how. I think for people who wanted to see the film and people who reacted to the poster were exactly the right people. But I don't think other clients would have seen it in quite the same way, because they didn't know how to translate that particular piece into another job. Where else would you find a use for that particular type of style? So it was. I did get a few commissions on the basis of can we have another Evil Dead, please? Thank you very much. And I just say well, if I've done it once, I'm not going to do another version of the same thing. But it's people have this weird idea that if something's successful, it must be because of this one particular thing, and they just think, well, if you reproduce that one particular thing, their product will be as equally successful. That's just not the case at all. Evil Dead would have been successful with or without my artwork anyway, because it is what it is. It's an amazing film, and just it hits all the right buttons for horror fans, and certainly at that time it did. The posters ancillary to that, really. But what I think it did do is just maybe add another layer to the perception of the film. It kind of made it slightly more outsider, I guess, in a way, and I think it just appealed to, as I mentioned before, to people that it just hits the right time musically as well. Though that just coming out of the initial punk rock scene into what kind of just sort of developed into sort of there's like a whole sort of rockabilly thing going on at the same time, and psychobilly. And then the Batcave had just opened up, I think, about 1982 as well, which was really the beginning of the whole goth scene as well. So I think that poster appealed to across the board. There was something very punk rock about it, and also the people who recognised the sort of 1950s vibe would have the psychobilly side of things would have been there as well. And then, of course, it just hit the sort of beginning of goth in many ways as well, as we know it now. So I think it just was just a very lucky piece of work at that time for me to produce, probably not knowingly making it a sort of a culturally relevant piece, but it just happened to be just hitting the right buttons at the time. So I think trying to reproduce that, you can't really, because the product's not going to be the same anyway, though. And it took a long time for me to break out of that particular look. I did a lot of magazine work and some book cover work, a lot of editorial work, which tended to be mostly humorous stuff. I mean, the Evil Dead posters was intended to be a humorous poster as well. It's very cartoony. And so a lot of my work was humour based up until the point that I got the Nightmare on Elm Street commission, which was I really wasn't going to be up for that at all, and Palace Pictures didn't want to use me at all for that. But luckily, it went to my friends who had set up their own little studio at that time, and they argued that I would be able to handle subject matter in a way which was different to the Evil Dead. And I think I had a couple of book covers which probably had a more sort of serious, figurative look to them. And I think on the basis of those, I think that they were convinced that I probably could do the poster. And so luckily, I got Nightmare on Elm Street to do as well. And that, of course, is the other poster which people will always associate my work with, although most of my work doesn't look like that at all. But yeah, so that was another very, very lucky thing. So between the two of those posters, I think I could prove that I could actually create a range of styles, and hopefully that helped me get more work.
Love that.
So, go on, Jerry.
No.
Before we delve into the Nightmare on Elm Street and really delve into your work a bit more, I read that you use the traditional medium of, forgive my pronunciation, is it gouache?
Gouache.
Gouache. I said I was close. I think I just said turn left in French. But
this is it's a medium I've used ever since I was at art college. It's a water-based paint. I guess it's like a cross between watercolor and acrylic. It's a simplistic way of putting it. It's basically watercolor with a white base, and it's a form of paint that's been around for I'd say a good couple of thousand years, if not longer, in one form or another. The original white base would have been some sort of paste, or probably some sort of animal, something or other with chalk mixed into it to create the base. But the pigments would have been, just mineral pigments, so basic blues, reds, greens, and such like. And there's a lot of paintings existing now, still from a good 1,000 years ago, which are painted in something which is approximate to what this is now. So gouache has been around for a long time. It was something that was favoured, I think, by the advertising industry in the middle of the last century, especially because where a lot of posters were painted, advertising stuff, quite often flat colours were used, and gouache, if it's used well, you can get really, really flat colours, like a background of blue or red. But the range of pigments has grew quite a lot in the 70s and 80s. But for myself, I still use gouache, but I only use about 7 colours. I won't use any others at all, because out of those 7 colours, I can get everything that I need. And so, you get people with kind of buy these flesh tones and browns and stuff. And you think, well, why are you doing that? You can mix it from you can mix them to 15 colours. And I do. I don't buy green at all, because I can mix it from yellow and a particular type of blue. I've got 2 blues I use. One is good for doing greens, the other one's good for doing purples. Also, to be honest, I think in the early days that was an economical consideration as well, because money. So
money,
probably wasting your money on colours you don't need at all. So I think that's one of the reasons why I've probably got a limited number of pigments I actually buy. But yeah, the range is amazing. What you can go out just those few colours, and also it's quite versatile, because you can do washes of colour and then solid blocks of colour over the top. So you get a whole range of textures and techniques within what should be something quite limited, but it isn't at all really. I mean, if you look at the work, it's there's a whole range of brush marks and means in there, and as I say, it's just all a few basic colours, and everything comes from that.
That is a serious skill to have, because obviously people come in now with their vast array of pages, like, I see. Look at Coalition 7, it's like, I don't need your vast array of colours there. I will do my 7, and that's amazing.
That's the range of colours, and that's actually just an old plate. Literally everything I've painted in the last 20 years has been mixed on this.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Unessential equipment, broken chipped glass. Every job literally in the last 25 years has mixed my paint in this with this glass, and they're essential piece of equipment, kitchen roll.
Yeah. I love it.
It used to be toilet roll, but I just thought it was a bit, I thought we'd get a bit classier and just get to the kitchen.
Time to change now.
You're making a bit of money from all this work now, right? Let's upgrade the kitchen roll.
And notch up, yeah.
What I love about your work, though, is there's a mix of like traditional sketch and paint, like we were just talking about. Then but with posters like Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, but you've done work using photographs like from Dusk Till Dawn and Party Monster poster, which I absolutely love, by the way. Was this you wanting to try something different, flex those muscles, or something that just sort of happened with the changes of technology?
I just had no choice because as soon as Photoshop appeared, desktop computing, everybody had a computer suddenly. Not many people could use them very well, but and also some terrible Photoshop work going on at the time. But suddenly clients didn't want to see illustration anymore; they just want to see Photoshop because they thought it was a new thing, and they just thought that's what other people would like to see as well. So initially, although I was illustrating, I was illustrating in other areas. As I said, editorial stuff, book covers, and a lot of educational publication stuff. But as far as posters were concerned, and VHS and DVD, nobody wanted to commission illustration tools. So that's how that happened. But it's interesting because what I did realise very, very quickly is that other people who are working in sort of the work environment, who are very good technically with a computer, suddenly found themselves doing all the photocomping, or creating those images you would see in posters and VHS and stuff. But one thing you realise is that a good technician isn't necessarily a good artist, because there are things they just don't see, which an artist would instantly, though. I mean, this whole obsession with high resolution images and very crisp outlines and the way you cut things out just doesn't look natural at all, though. It just looks terrible. And as an artist, when I would use Photoshop, I would do things to the photographs. I would blur the edges very slightly, and there's all these little tricks you would do, which are just visual things which you would do as an artist, and which literally as a technician you wouldn't think about doing, because you're concentrating on the on the quality of the shot, and how it's cut out precisely, and how it's laid over another shot. And also what they're missing is quite often the quality of the elements you might be putting together in a photo comp. It may be that the background is suddenly much better resolution than your foreground focal thing, but rather than actually change the focus of the background to actually degrade it, so that it brings your foreground actually properly to the foreground, they might just kind of leave it thinking, well, it's the best quality of each layer, but actually visually it just looks wrong. And again, it needs an artist's eye to actually recognise why an image isn't working. So as far as using Photoshop was concerned, I treated it as just another form of illustration in a way, not one that was as satisfying, of course. But I did a huge amount of work for 10 years, I think it was, without doing any recognisable illustration work, other than the stuff, which sort of in other areas, up until probably Arrow Films approached me, and I think it was they probably the first company to really kick-started illustration, or an interest in illustrated images again, for home entertainment. And that's going back about 15 years or so, probably, I think. And ever since then, of course, it's been the mainstay of independent home entertainment distribution. So I've been able to work with other companies like Second Sight and 88 Films, and some various German companies. Here is Eureka as well, and it was Odeon Entertainment, who've since changed their name, I think, to Screen Entertainment, I think they. And some of the companies in America as well, though. So it seems to have spread across the whole spectrum of distribution now, and I think it's because there's a lot of reissue stuff going on, and a lot of the reissue stuff is, funnily enough, stuff in the 80s. So I guess people making a nod back to that era, and especially when you get to older films, when you get stuff in the 60s, 70s, 50s, 40s even, then it just seems more appropriate to use something which is sympathetic to the advertising of the time. And it's interesting how it's now translated into soundtrack covers as well, vinyl soundtrack covers. And so I've been doing a lot of that recently as well for Waxwork Records in the States. I've done a number of covers for them. None of which have been announced yet, so I can't say I can't tell you what they are yet. But although at least one of them was painted over a year and a half ago. But it takes time for these things to come to market. It seems sometimes. So I think the first one might be coming out in December, and then the other ones probably through till next June. That's of the ones that I've done already, but I've got some more being lined up at the moment. But so that's been great as well. I mean, because I did do a lot of record cover work in the early 80s anyway, though, which was illustrated stuff. So it's sort of come full circle in a way. And you find that a lot of younger bands now kind of just are thinking about stuff they remember seeing as kids, and they can see the value of painted work over a photo comp or a photograph. And I think they know that much like writing music, there's a craft and a passion to it which you just don't get working in another form at all. So I think just for now anyway, though, there's been a revival of illustrated images, and just hope it continues. And also it's an antidote, I guess, to the sort of the tech world we live in as well, though, and I think it just adds a sort of more personal sort of feel to the actual product as well. And of course, the other thing has been sort of a big industry in alternative film posters as well, because obviously you get a sort of classic film from the 80s, and there are any number of posters that were produced at the time. But sometimes people just like to see something which has is sort of out of that period culturally, yet harkens back to it, and sort of straddles two worlds, if you like. And just actually reimagining how a poster might have been had it been created by somebody now, with hindsight, if you like. So I've been doing a lot of that recently as well. And that's been good fun, because I'm getting to do posters for films I've never ever been approached to poster for at the time, and so it's kind of there's an element of revenge as well.
I imagine when you got that call from Arrow Films to say like they want a proper illustration movie poster again, you're like, yes, the day I've been waiting for. Computers out the window, let's go, baby.
Well, I thought it would be a one-off thing, really, and fortunately it wasn't, because I think they came back quite quickly for another one. And I think like any company, would they responded to customer comments, and which fortunately seems to be quite positive. So I think I think they identified that as a way to go. And I think they're already using a couple of illustrators anyway. Though I think Rick Melton was doing work with them already, and things about Rick's work. I mean, we're completely different artists, but he still uses he actually uses oil paints, which is mainly almost full of my chair. I mean, people fall over and they hear that I'm actually using paint. But for somebody to be using oil paint for commercial work is astonishing, really, because quite simply oil just takes time to dry, and if you're doing commercial work, you have to work to a deadline, and you have time to sit around waiting for paint to dry. As simple as that. I mean, gouache just dries instantly, so it's ready to go, and easy to work with. But I wouldn't even dream about trying to work in oil paint.
I'll say that. Sorry, Jane.
No, you can.
I was just curious to know how you have kept going for so long with how much technology has developed over the years. Because obviously, artists now, everyone does everything online, don't they? Like you say, everyone uses Paint or Photoshop or whatever. So it's amazing that Arrow Films went, actually, we want to stick to traditional. Could you mind just and we'll just keep going until the end of time, I suppose. It's fantastic to hear.
Well, there's a lot of people doing what I do, but they're doing it digitally, but it looks like painted work, and that's that's the way they prefer to work. And I don't blame them, because I mean, a paint can be quite it's a messy business, it's there's a lot of constantly changing your water all the time. You have to clean the palette all the time. It's a thing, but even if it's digital work, it's still it's just another medium. Like a gouache, it's still oil paint. It's digital. It's just another form, and it's not something I feel the need to do because I've honed my skills in this one particular medium, and I don't see any need to change that at all because this gives me everything I need to do. And I feel I'd be limited doing things digitally, and I do know from some digital artists that it takes them longer to do their work digitally than it would do in paint. And to me, that seems a bit absurd, really. But that's the way they like to work, and that's fine. But I just don't think I would actually be able to survive doing stuff digitally if it took longer, because the only way I can survive as an illustrator is to deliver work fast so that I can get on to the next job. So I've got a list of about 20 jobs at the moment, which I don't know how I'm going to get through them. I will. For instance, I've got 2 deadlines which are next Wednesday, and one job I've just barely begun. The other one I only got the go-ahead this afternoon, and so I'll be working this weekend trying to get those 2 done in tandem with each other. But they're both jobs I wasn't going to turn down because sometimes even when you think you're busy, and somebody comes along with a job and says, are you interested in doing this? You think, well, it's my favourite band. Why would I not be interested in doing work for this? And then there's another job. It's like, well, it's my favourite TV series. Why would I not be wanting to do work for this? Of course you will. And then you realise that, of course, the deadline is just a few days away. But actually, you take on both jobs at the same time as you're doing the other work you're doing already. But that's kind of what you do, really. Because the other thing is that every job you do is going to be seen somewhere, and in a way, it's kind of, I guess it's publicity, isn't it? I suppose, but it's attaching yourself to key cultural participants, if you like. It is good in many ways. I mean, to have your name attached to particular projects, it has a lot of kudos, which you can't garner any other way, really. So I find it very hard to turn work down because whatever it is, there's going to be something of interest in there, and also it's going to have some sort of audience out there as well. And actually, if you can spread the audience quite wide as well into different areas, then that's got to be good, I think. And it also keeps me on my toes as well, because it's easy to get complacent in just thinking that, well, I can just do what I like, which is a type of horror thing. I just endlessly do hammer posters. I'd love to do that, but I wouldn't be earning any money if I did that. So it's a good discipline to work in as many different areas as you can.
Just wondering, where do you get your inspiration from with these things? Like, will you watch the movie before you start doing the poster, or listen to the band before you start doing the album, or is it literally just you get an idea in your head?
Funny enough, with a lot of record cover work I've done, I've actually not heard the band at all. I just had discussions with the members, and you take your inspiration. Well, they usually come to you for a reason anyway, though, which is they like your work, so they already indicate what kind of thing they want. So you don't really, the music's superfluous. As far as I'm concerned, it's all about the imagery that the music might conjure up, and talking. If they're good at communicating, they will give you that anyway. Though, with films, it'd be daft trying to do something without seeing the film. I mean, I have done that before, simply because back in the 80s, for instance, they would say, we haven't got a copy of the film, but here's a couple of stills. This is more or less what happens. You go up and do your sleeve on the basis of that. And of course, generally speaking, it's completely off on a tangent and nothing to do with film at all. But if somebody picks the video off the shelf and rents it, and the client's happy, I guess. But for me, that's just it's fraud, isn't it? But mostly yes, I will watch a film, and what's important for me is to just find those little moments which tell the whole story, if you like. And it's always about expressions. I love doing portraiture, and but getting exactly the right expression, which can be just glimpsed in a sort of microsecond within a scene. And I keep going back to the forward, trying to just find that one little moment and do a screen grab of that, because that's the only moment which is going to work for what you want. And other than that, when it's a reissue of something older, a classic 80s film, shall we say, then the job is to look for a new way of viewing the film, finding new things within the film that nobody's really considered that important before. But in fact, when I look at the film, I think, actually, suddenly this actually is really key to what makes the film work. And if you can find those little moments or images and then bring those to the fore, it's just a new way of looking at the film, I find. And also just helping other people find a fresh perspective on something they thought they knew well, but then suddenly you're saying, well, actually it's a slightly different film to what you thought it was. So for me, that's a great thing to do. It's a great challenge, and I find that probably the most exciting part of what I do.
I love that. That's amazing. Love it. I love it. So we could talk about the different projects you've been involved in all day, but one thing I did want to make sure we talk about is your book, Hung, Drawn and Executed. But for those unaware,
title, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great title. But for those unaware,
the next one's even worse, I can assure you.
Oh, I've seen the next one and it's brilliant. But for those unaware, what's the book about? What can people find inside?
Well, essentially, it's a collection of work. But aside from that, it's also I thought it was very important to have a little section which showed the working process, because I think there's no point keeping any mystery about what I do. It's some people can be quite precious about their working methods, but it's what I do is commercial. It's I'm a commercial artist, and you get from A to B as fast as possible, and the ways you do that are fairly easy. But it's I guess the thing is, what I can give people is what goes on in my head in terms of when you're making your marks on the paper, all those little thought processes you go through, which happen in a microsecond, as you're doing the work. It all is spontaneous. And that's something that people have to find for themselves. But the basic framework of an illustration, how that's put together, is something that it's quite easy to explain. It's all about looking at the film, finding those moments, as I said, identifying the right moment of an expression on the face. Excuse me, getting over a cold. Still sipping water. But and it's also about composition. It's how you create hierarchy within your images. That you build your picture around a focal point, and then you're also trying to tell a story with all those images you're using. There'll be some sort of perhaps backdrop, which will be a setting, which will give a clue to what's going on, or where it's going on, if you like. You'll have central character, but then how they react to another character, some sort of nuance that's going on, which isn't necessarily obvious, but it creates some intrigue, having some other element which perhaps looks quite random, but it's actually an important part of the narrative. And I think it's about building clues, if you like, creating a puzzle in an image, and actually just knowing that you've got the right parts to make it work. The whole processing, there's a technical side to things. Obviously, the putting down a wash of paint and blocking out dark colours and the basic shapes, all that stuff. That's all kind of fairly standard technical stuff. But I hope within the text that I write with it, and also in the little descriptions of each of the pieces of work that are shown in the book, that there's a bit of thought process going on. Which also sometimes has a bit of colour theory as well, as to why I picked those particular colours. And sometimes it's playing against expectation, and sometimes it's actually heightening expectation, if you like. So for me, it's important to have a little description with each piece of work, which just shows that it doesn't just happen out of the ether. There is a reason for everything to be as it is. And sometimes it is as simple as it's what the client asks for, and you've got no choice but to do what they want. But see, everything has a commercial purpose, so I can't indulge myself, in the work I do. But in terms of inspiration, ideas come from the actual films, obviously. But I have realised over the last few years, especially that because the work's constantly going around in my head, and you have to remove yourself from it, all the time, because otherwise you just get bogged down and it starts to get stale. So I find that most of the ideas tend to come in those waking moments, just before I literally wake up in the morning. It's when you're half dreaming, and that's when your mind's quite relaxed, but also full of images at the same time. But it's just weird how that happens, though. That so many jobs I've done over the last few years have just literally, I've reproduced what has appeared in my head in that funny little waking moment, and I can't really describe how that happens, but there's an urgency to kind of just sketch that down quite quickly before I lose it. But it's amazing that you get a complete image in your head of how the finished painting will look, and then it's up to you to just try to recreate that as closely as possible, and it just generally seems to work, though.
I love
it. It's not at all creepy.
Sort of that idea.
No drugs are involved.
I just love that idea of you waking up, having a stretch, going, I dip.
Oh, literally, it does happen like that. Yeah. So, not so much the stretching, maybe just lying.
You mentioned you've got a new book on the way, and I don't care what you say, Graham. The name is amazing. A Nightmare on One Sheet. That is fantastic.
I thought it was as well, and then I thought about it. No, maybe it's a bit silly, but actually, I'm going to stick with it because I think it actually is. It's a terrible pun, but I think it works. So, well, mostly because of the pandemic, really. But that last book came out in 2019. So most of that work in there would have been, I think, probably the last piece would have been about 6 months before the book actually came to print, because of the way nature of putting a book together, etc., etc. But I realised there's a huge body of work, especially over 2020, 21. So it was easy to fill a new book with probably I don't know how many paintings will go in there, but easily there'll be, by the time the book is going to print, another 200 pieces, I would have thought. But I'll whittle it down to about 150, I would have thought, and then I'll do another stage by stage process as well, because people seem to really like that section. And also with regards to some of the work in there, I thought it was important to get some interesting writing from a few other people outside. So, for instance, in the last book, I was lucky to get cover a few bases there with the old Universal Horror connections with Sarah Karloff, Boris Karloff's daughter, wrote a little piece, and Benton Price's daughter Victoria wrote a piece. Dacre Stoker, the great grandnephew of Bram Stoker, wrote a little piece for me. Jeffrey Combs, reanimator himself, wrote a little piece for me. So this time, I've got Rob Zombie, who's already delivered an intro. I've got to keep pushing, but I'm going to pummel Dave Vanian from the Dam until the point he does actually find his intro as well. Greg Nicotero has agreed, but I've got to pummel him a bit because he's very busy. And then Sam Irvin as well has agreed to do a piece as well for me, though. So it's good to get different perspectives of people who are in the industry and who have been commissioning me as well, though. So Greg Nicotero's collected a number of pieces, original pieces of artwork of mine, and we worked together on a couple of jobs. And Rob Zombie's the connection with Waxwork Records as well. So it's a series which is just actually titled Rob Zombie Presents. And Dave Vane, I worked with the Dams on a couple of projects. In fact, I'm working with them right now one of those jobs that's needed next Wednesday, in fact, damn it. And then Sam Irvin, particularly because he's a huge poster collector and loves all the classic horror films, as I do as well, and has a big love of Hammer and Universal. And I've just recently finished a piece which has a particular resonance for him because it's one of his favourite films. So he's going to reproduce that in the book he's working on right now, and has very kindly bought the artwork from me as well. So it would be a proud owner of that. So it's good to have him included in the book as well. But also he's just got this unique perspective of being a director, producer, and somebody who's interviewed for magazines over the years a lot of horror legends as well. So he has this great insight into horror, and particularly the sort of nostalgic stuff I like working on as well. So, Hammer titles and Universal monsters, and inevitably Vincent Price, who I probably painted more than anybody else, except for Reece Shearsmith. I think I painted more Reece Shearsmith portraits than Vincent Price, simply because Reece, of course, has been so many different characters in League of Gentlemen and Inside Number 9. It's just it's just I should actually sit down and just like count the number of times I've painted him.
When you just said then about Rob Zombie, I swear I saw him post something earlier on about a vinyl box set with the soundtracks to House of Thousand Corpses, Devil Rejects, and the one after which the name has escaped me, Free from Hell. Is that what you're referring to?
No, nothing I've worked on so far has been announced yet. I think first title's due in December, I was told. But the other ones, I think February, April, May, June, I think though. One of them does involve a pop-up though, which is good fun to do. People don't do pop-ups enough, I find.
It seems to be like a lost art there. That needs to come back.
Yeah.
So before we start wrapping up, because we know we've been here for quite a while, and I've absolutely loved talking to you, and we've had some amazing stories. But with all the amazing work,
I don't get enough laughs though.
Pardon, sorry?
I don't get enough laughs though.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. I'll squeeze a few more in quick.
Before we start wrapping up, though, with all the amazing work you've done over the years, if you were to point out a couple of the artworks that you're extra proud of, that you go, this is what I do, what would they be?
Well, definitely Freddy's Revenge, I think. Only the portrait version, the quad version is terrible, but it was done in a rush, and I don't even think about that nowadays. But Freddy's Revenge, and there have been some, but I don't know. Things I'm always kind of looking ahead at the next job, so I find it hard to look back sometimes though, because where my mind is, it's literally on the 10th job ahead already though. So what I'm hoping is within that work will be the new best piece. Actually, there is one piece actually I did for one of the Rob Zombie projects. I think actually is one of the most pleasing for me pieces that I've done. I usually hate the work as soon as I paint it, I hate it. But yeah, there's one piece in particular which I can't tell you about, but it'll be there to next year at some point in springtime, I guess though. But you'll probably see it, and you can probably tell that I really enjoy painting it. So yeah, I can't tell you.
All good.
I love it. That was a great little plug for the future. That was really sneaky. You want to see my best work? Then watch this space, people.
Exactly. And meanwhile, yeah. So with the new book, hopefully, I think the publisher's putting it together, or starting work on it this in December. I think probably I can carry on delivering work for it up until I'm guessing around April time, and then there'll be a cut-off point. So, in my head, ideally, I'd like the new book to be out in the summer. I think. I mean, it's you think, well, keep it for Halloween, but I think that's stupid because if the book's ready, just get it out there, really. So yeah, hopefully it'll be. I think it'll be a better collection of work than the last one, which is all about really demonstrating some sort of progression. I guess though, because it's very important to try improve on what you do as you go along. And I think it's a much stronger body of work, and I think there's more variety in there as well, and and some good fun stuff as well. And I think just those few little introductions will just nudge it along for our friends in the States, if you like, there, because I mean Rob Zombie's a big name there, of course, in horror. Probably I don't know how his name works so much here, but I think that I think Greg Nicotero is pretty much revered across the board, and certainly for us Brits, I think that the Damned are a quintessentially British band with their roots, right where I was at art college, really 1976, when they formed. So in fact, they are the music of my work, if you like, in many ways. And so they have a very special place in my heart, and actually at this moment in time, they're able to give a little bit of that back to them. So hopefully that's a relationship which will continue into the future as well. As long as we can, live long enough. We're all getting on a bit.
Well, I love it. I saw the Damned touring next year as well. My father was brought together.
Yes, I've got my ticket already. Amazing venue. Alexandra Palace, most people know for the larger hall in there, but there's a beautiful Victorian theatre within the building, which was recently restored. But it's actually, they restored it to the point where they've not rendered up the walls again, so it's like bare brickwork. So it looks really grungy and Victorian. It's perfect for the Damned. And if you know Wilton's Music Hall, it's very much like that as well. This old kind of almost like musical kind of theatre, but then you have this kind of slightly rotting kind of look to it as well, though, which is fantastic. So it's going to be a great gig, I think.
Incredible. Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
Yes, one more, Mr. Humphreys. When you first began wanting to pursue a career in art, illustration, graphic, everything you were doing at college, etc., did you ever think that this is where your life would have got to today?
I probably would have hoped to have had more money. I'm still paying a bloody mortgage, But no, it's actually. I think I achieved what I wanted to achieve in my kiddie's view of the world. By the time I was 22, probably by doing Evil Dead posts, I think probably that was the limit of my ambition at the time. So I think the rest was just being a bonus, really, though. But so no, I had no idea. Of course, I didn't. And but I think I've been very, very fortunate through the work I've had and found, and also to have lived through the particular eras that I did. That I think growing up in the late. Being a teenager in the late 70s and then catching the whole punk rock thing was just quite an amazing cultural thing, and it really just shaped my life, and it's and that led directly into the horror stuff, because I've always argued that punk rock and horror are kind of kith and kin. I mean, a classic example, the Damned. I mean, where's that name come from? Season of Banshees, Cry of the Banshee, they knit, that's where they got their name from. And you kind of the Stranglers, you see all the parallels between horror and punk rock, and the sort of exuberance in the imagery, and the sort of raw textures, and the really bright colours. It's all kind of there. So and then the 80s, of course, it's there were some horrible, terrible things in the 80s and ghastly music, but there was also fantastic music as well, though, and all the stuff that I liked. The 80s gave us the whole goth thing. It actually brought horror into the mainstream in music, and probably helped you along some of the filmic stuff that happened at the time as well, though. Certainly, it didn't do Sam Raimi any harm. His fans over here, and that scene sort of continues, and I think that there's still music. There's still music out there which is inspired by horror, and of course there's a real appreciation of great soundtrack work, though, which wouldn't have been around, I don't think, in the 80s, for instance, I think that, we go and see, John Carpenter perform gigs, that was unheard of, really. And of course, Fabio Frizzi, of course, had to postpone his tour this year, but we'll be performing next year. But, hearing the Zombie Flesh Eater soundtrack live is just phenomenal, really. That's something that wasn't available for us at the time. So everything is good, apart from the Conservative Party and Brexit and everything else. The war in the UK, but everything else is fine. Keep looking at this thing.
Just add on to what you say there, though. You're absolutely right that the alternative subculture and horror and with music, it all does blend together so beautifully well. Like you say, Rob Zombie makes metal music, makes horror movies. There's the guest we had on last week on our show, Wednesday 13. He's known for doing a lot of his songs based on horror movies. He's got songs all about Halloween and American Werewolf in London and stuff like that. It all goes together quite beautifully.
It does, yes. It's a lovely world.
And we love it, and we love being part of it. Graham, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us. Absolutely love this.
I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic, and I could talk for hours more, but I know you have, we've all got bedtimes and things.
Before we let you go, though, have you got any plugs, social medias, any websites you want people to check out?
Yeah, I shamefully have not updated my website for a year, but I've got to sit down and do it because there's a huge amount of work that needs to go on there. But there is GrahamHumphreys.com, and I am on Twitter and Instagram. I can't remember what the names are, but you can find me. I use Instagram and Twitter purely just to show new pieces of work. For all the politics and stuff, and all around, you'll find those on Facebook. But I also post work on Facebook as well. But so Facebook is more like a sort of daily blog thing, I guess, if you like, and the state of the world. Whereas Instagram and Twitter is purely just the work. And then the website is really just an archive of that work. Once I've updated it, and then there'll be some new work as well, though. So the website is where I was probably about a year and a half ago. But yeah, and then of course, as each new piece of work is announced, that will be put up there as well. Though, so yeah, it's probably about 60 pieces of work which I can't show anybody yet. Which I've been done and dusted. They'll be out there sooner or later. And hopefully, most of them have been in the book as well, though.
We can't wait to read it. Like I said, Graham, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this and sitting down with us. Absolutely loved it.
It's been great, thank you. And I love to horror myself.
That's what these things are for, though. That's what we do. Like, tell us all about yourself, please. We love it. We love it. Absolutely.
Publicity, yeah.
Thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful evening. It's been absolutely incredible. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much.
It's dull for anybody to listen to, but
no, don't be ridiculous.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It really has, though. We should do it again.
Absolutely. Yes. We'll stay in touch. Don't worry. You ain't get rid of us now. But look after yourself. Have a great evening, and we'll speak soon, sir.
Thank you. Look after yourself.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Fantastic conversation. Just, like I said, the knowledge he passes on and the passion. It's love it. Love it.
Good. It was a good show. It was a good interview. We hope that you enjoyed it. Graham, we so thankful that you came on. We love talking to you, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. And we really hope that you all enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it.
All right. Is this thing on? Well, howdy doody, everybody. This is Braden Berry from Say We Can Fly, founder of Stay Cozy Clothing, your one-stop shop for the coziest, most fashionable hoodies, t-shirts, and more. Gosh, Mickey.
That's right, folks. And we're proud to say that we are now sponsoring
the Chronicles of Podcast. Ouch.
Hosted by Tom and Jamie.
Like, you can get 10% off, man!
That's right, Shaggy!
Just use the special code, The Chronicles, at checkout.
Oh, boy!